right. Hey, everyone. We're going to get started here in a minute. So get your notebook and your pen handy, and we'll see you shortly. I'm Marshall Atkinson with Atkinson Consulting. Thank you so much for joining us here today about the KPIs of production. And with me is Judith Potter with Work on Grid, who's developed this fantastic app called Production Tracker. So Judith, how are you doing?
I'm good, Marshall. Thank you so much for introducing. How are you?
We're doing great. And so we're ready to dive in with the presentation.
Yes, 100%.
So let's get going here. All good. I think everybody can see that. Let us know if you can't. And we're going to get going here. As soon as I flip to my notes. I'm Marshall Atkinson, and we just introduced Judith. So you can't manage what you don't measure. Here we go. So I wanted to start this presentation with this quote, and it's from Peter Drucker, who you may or may not know, but he was an expert in workflow and efficiency and did a lot of stuff in the aluminum industry and really was one of the pioneers of workflow and production. And also W. Edwards Deming also is attributed to the same quote. And what it really means is that if you're not measuring what's going on in your business, you're not really managing it, right? And so we really need to be understanding that both of these people were really pioneers in the fact of measuring performance as a way of charting improvement. And what they did is they measured what was going on in their businesses and their factories, and they took action after the measurement to improve everything. And so that's, you may have heard that quote, what gets measured gets improved. And I think we're going to find out today that's exactly what happens. So we really want to look at something called key performance indicators. And you may have heard of KPIs before. KPIs help you monitor things that are most important to your business. The number one thing to remember is that KPIs help you show progress toward an improved goal. So the benefits of KPIs are really about target data collection, meaning you decide what is important, and then what you're going to do is you're going to collect data on that. So what is a good number? What is a bad number? This could be in the amount of shirts that you print a day, how many screens you're burning, how fast you're setting up, how many embroidery runs you do in an hour. You know, whatever your KPIs are, you set the benchmark for what is both good and bad, and actually dialing that in and applying some sort of quality number to it helps you understand and build change that really matters. Using KPIs help you with focusing on goals. So we all want to get better. A KPI is going to help you understand where you are on the journey, and are you almost there, or are you so far away you have lots of work to do? So knowing your numbers allows you to apply the effort that you need to get going with that, right? And then also KPIs really kind of help you look at your effectiveness. You know, what's working, what's not, and that's going to help you make and understand decisions that you can apply for change. So just kind of really, I know you guys probably understand this, but KPIs, you know, the top KPI things you need to really understand is that a KPI must be specific, measurable, and authentic. So you need to make sure that your data is correct. So if you're pulling in data and you're measuring stuff, you need to make sure that your method that you're actually getting the data is accurate and true, and not just what somebody put down on a page, right? So you want to always kind of audit that. Also, what's best, KPIs work best when you use a SMART goal, especially for improvement. And I think everybody's heard of SMART goals, but if you haven't, it's an acronym, and that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, meaning that you're going to set a goal for improvement that's based on a number and you're going to lock that in with a date range, like by the end of this month or the end of this year or whatever. And that way you're actually moving forward with stuff. KPIs, we don't want to get locked in. Things get improved, and it's okay to adjust your goals. So let's say you wanted to drop your screen setup time, and you start measuring and you're benchmarking and you're at like 10 minutes and you want to get to 5 minutes. That seems like a big leap. You might set a goal of maybe just getting to 8 minutes right off the bat, or maybe 7 minutes. And that way you're working toward a goal that's achievable. And that way, when you get there, you can celebrate that. Also, KPIs, you have to establish your process for data collection. How are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? Who is actually doing it? What are you using to collect the data? Excuse me. So it's really important that we kind of look and we ask those questions about that so we know where we're going with stuff. Also, where are we collecting the data? Is it at the press? Is it in the screen room? Is it in the front office? All of that really matters. Next up, we want to hit the idea of time. Okay. So for KPIs, time is one of the most important things that you can measure. So I want you to think about this in your shop right now. How many minutes of your day is your crew actually spending decorating a shirt? I mean, actually doing the work. They're screen printing or digitally printing or embroidering or heat pressing or whatever they're doing. How many minutes of that time are they actually doing it, right? So I want you to think about this. So in an average 8-hour day, 480 minutes are in an 8-hour shift. So if you take away a 30-minute lunch and 2 15-minute breaks, that leaves 420 minutes. So of those 420 minutes, how many of those minutes were actually spent decorating? So do yourself a favor. Tomorrow, I want you to observe your crews working. I want you to stand there on their production floor, especially right before they come into work. And I want you to think about how long it takes them to actually finish the first shirt. So how many minutes after they start, let's say your crews start at 6:30 in the morning. At 6:30, they come in and start working. So do you get a printed shirt by 6:40 or is it 7 o'clock? When do you get an embroidered polo? Is it a couple minutes after that, or is it another 30 minutes, right? How long does it take to actually get the first thing finished? And then also look at right before a break, right before lunch, in between jobs. These are all downtime challenges that you have that you may not really kind of understand because you're not really looking at that. So when you focus on the right amount of time spent decorating as a metric, you can see that when you add more minutes to this daily, the long-term effect of this is going to be more profitability because you're decorating the shirt longer time periods during the day with less downtime. So you're able to get more jobs out. You're able to get things done on time, which means that you don't have to overnight things or have more overtime. There's all that kind of stuff. This is all about tracking time. The next KPI that I think you should look at is quantity, right? So quantity is simply how many. So how many shirts did you embroider? How many t-shirts did you print? How many screens did you image? How many pieces of artwork did you develop? How many of anything did you do? That's what we want to kind of look at. We want to look at the totals. How many did we do today? How many did we do this week, this month, this quarter, this year? All that really matters because when we annualize things, it really helps us understand things in a big macro, big picture view so we can make better decisions. And for this industry, one of the things that I've been really looking at for a long time is the unit of work that we do. And I call that an impression. All right. So it doesn't really matter how many colors of thread or ink that we're using. we're really looking at one decoration location. So 100 shirt order with a front and back decoration is 200 impressions, right? So we want to really track how many of the unit of work that we're doing per department, per hour, and all these different things. So we want to know the total quantity for each piece of equipment that you do each day. We want to know what the average is for that, right? So if we know that your average in screen printing, let's say, is 2,500 for the shift, and they only did 1,600 today, what happened? That can really help you kind of understand where you need to do help out, right? And then how far off of that is the total maximum amount that your machines are capable of. So if you really kind of understand the limits of things, you can really start doing the work to make sure you're getting more out per day. So knowing and really understanding how quality fits in is really going to help you solve these challenges better. The next thing we want to take a look at is velocity. And velocity is easy. It's simply how fast. It's our speed, okay? So for each piece of equipment that you have in your shop, how fast can it run and produce the best quality work? And as you know, every machine is different. And typically shops, they might have different machines from different manufacturers or different capabilities or different, ages. You might have a brand new press sitting next to a press that's 10 years old, right? You're also going to have different people. You're going to have different types of work, different inks, different all kinds of things, right? So when we look at velocity, we really kind of want to know, with all of these different variables, how fast really matters, because we can really kind of chart and understand the difference between when we print a t-shirt and then we print a hoodie or a bandana. Even though if the images were all the same size, how much are you getting out per hour for that? This helps you with your scheduling if you know what your averages are, right? So wouldn't it be great if you had a speedometer for your equipment so you know this information all the time? And this is going to help you with that production scheduling. Like I said, when we know how fast, we can align with the jobs that are coming in, and we're going to be able to predict outcomes. So how fast does your crew set up? How fast does your crew run the jobs? How fast does your crew work to resolve problems, right? So understanding the velocity of the work that is being performed as a KPI helps everyone navigate to these improvements. And so when you think about this stuff, I want you to think about the problems you have that really slow you down. This is a boat anchor, right? So you want to go 1,000,000 miles an hour with your hair on fire, but we've got this problem. What is it? Okay. So if we really kind of understand that, and we start making improvements to our velocity, you can easily see that our improvements are working, or they're not working, or they're staying the same, or whatever it is. This really helps you when you start tracking your KPIs. The next thing that we want to talk about is our downtime. And Allie Bandholzer, if you don't know her, she's awesome. She has a shop in Maryland called Wear Your Spirit Warehouse. I got this acronym from her, so I wanted to give her credit for that. So downtime in your shop is a cancer, right? So if we start looking at our downtime, we start looking at how much money we're not making because we're not decorating a shirt. And so when we look at this stuff, I want you to start considering how much your equipment is worth. And for the sake of discussion here, and for probably a good many of the slides to follow, we're going to be looking at screen printing, but this could apply to other decoration methods as well, embroidery or digital heat press or whatever. So let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that your press, your auto, is worth $300 an hour, right? That's the amount of money that you can generate for that press when it's running. Frankly, lots of shops actually value their press at a higher rate than that, but $300 an hour is a really great target to use in a discussion like this because it also equates to $5 a minute. So how many minutes a day are you not producing? So if you're not producing that, if you're not producing all day, if it turns out that you've got 50% of your day is not spent printing and each minute is worth $5, I want you to think about if you were to take every single time a minute goes by, you reach into your wallet and throw a $5 bill on the ground, how many $5 bills at the end of the day for each piece of equipment would you have sitting there at your feet? It's a crazy number for most shops. So let's review each of these different little downtime scenarios. Okay, so defects, the D in downtime, is really about a misprint or some sort of unacceptable result, right? So this means that when you have defects, you might have to print it over, or you might have to credit your customer for those shirts or that print or whatever. These things can get really expensive. So if you're not measuring your defects and how that equates to your downtime, this can mean there's a lot of unreported dollar bills going out the door, and we want to track that, okay? So a KPI for defects is huge. We really want to be looking at that. The O in downtime is overproduction, which means that we're producing more so that we have enough when needed, right? So this takes time. So think about, this is the reason why the whole digital print on demand workflow has really increased, because instead of printing 1,000 shirts and holding them in inventory and then pulling from them when somebody orders, we're not printing a shirt until it's actually ordered, which means there isn't any overproduction. So we're not paying for things that we don't need. So the O in downtime really is really looking at that and thinking about how you can do things better. The W is all about waiting, right? So is your screen print or other department waiting on something in screen printing? Are they waiting on screens? Are they waiting on shirts to start running the job? Are they waiting on somebody to come down and approve that press strike off, right? What is the delay? Are you tracking that delay and how long people are waiting for things? So if you can track how long people wait, then it's easy to figure out a different workflow and then also when you improve it, you can see that you're waiting less and producing more. So it's really important that you track how long we're waiting on things. Not ready, okay, is when we're unorganized. So we're not really ready to go. So we don't know what to do next. And I also call this the Mother May I scenario, where they finished the first job and then now they're waiting for the production manager to give them the next one, right? So we're not ready to go, meaning we're unorganized in some way. So there could be some downtime associated with that because you're not pulling a production schedule and really looking at this stuff, right? The T is in transport. So you have to take stuff from here to there to start. So where are your inventory? Where is your ink? Where is your thread, right? How easy is it to find a sample or anything that you need to get started, right? So are you waiting on something to bring it over here, right? So really looking at how long it takes to get things because they're being transported as something that you can track. The M here is motion, right? So any unnecessary motion is a waste of time. So how many times are you touching something? Right now, okay, we're touching things a lot in receiving because we used to order the shirts and get all the shirts in maybe once or maybe twice for the order. But now because the inventory is so crazy, we're having to order from 4 or 5 different warehouses and sometimes from 2 different distributors. And we might be touching that order and counting in the inventory for it 5, 6, 7 times before we get everything. And it's really a huge problem. So are you tracking how much extra time this is costing your shop? Are you adjusting your pricing for that because of the extra labor? So if you have this as a KPI, you could quantify this and help you understand it better. And then lastly, we want to get to extra work, right? So anytime that we have extra steps that need to be reduced or eliminated to get to the same result, we really want to be looking at that. So this could mean, for example, when you're doing post-production work and you want to have to put a size sticker on a shirt, how much time does that take? Only a matter of moments, right? But what if the poly bag had a size, a label on the bag? You wouldn't need to apply the sticker. So you reduce your labor and you also reduce the cost of that sticker, right? So these are all some kind of KPI acronyms here that would really help you kind of look at your downtime. So let's look at the importance of data, right? And so the reason why we're using KPIs is that it really helps you understand exactly what's going on. Acquiring data is usually difficult. People don't want to do the math. People don't want to track stuff. They want to do their jobs. They don't want to spend any time measuring, which is usually why it's really hard for managerial staff to get the data we need to understand what's going on, right? Because if we have the data, let me just run through a list real quick. If we have the data, we know, are we improving? We can make an informed decision. We can solve problems proactively. We can measure effectiveness. Data helps us illuminate problems. We're not guessing because we've got real math. So that gut feeling that we're not doing it right goes away because we actually have data that we can look at, right? We can be strategic in how we're solving things because we know exactly what's going on. It shows not only the strengths, but also the weaknesses and stuff. So let's say you're tracking 4 or 5 different press crews. Who's the strongest? Who's the weakest? Who needs the most help, right? That really helps. It helps with your planning. And also every employee wants to get a raise, right? So using KPIs and tracking this data helps you with performance tracking. So they and you can prove that they're worth the extra money. So that's the reason why we need this data. So here is a production log that I invented like forever ago. And I've been using this in the shops that I run for a long time. And KPIs, I don't know if you can see this really well, but the KPIs that I'm tracking here are screen setup time, total number of screens used, the production totals, defect and misprint totals. I'm also charting problems like pinholes on the screen or any other defect, right? And I'm using this at the bottom. You can see those totals. So we're using this to calculate the average setup time per screen, the average production rate in impressions per hour. So we want to know the auto, and I like to hit at least 400 an hour for an auto, 60 impressions an hour for a manual. And yes, people go faster than that all the time, but those are just averages that you have to hit at a minimum, right? It helps me calculate the average downtime percentage for the shift, which is really important. We want to be looking at that because that helps us schedule, but also helps us understand things. So this next slide here this is real data, right? So this is data from a shop that I ran, and this is 16 autos. And the project here was to improve the setup times, right? So this was using this form, manually putting this information in, right? And we're able to get the actual data, and you can see I graphed everything next to it, okay? So the goal was to get to under 5 minutes per screen as an average for the press, right? And now as you can just look at January there, you can see that some of these were under already, some of these were over, but the goal was to get down under 5 minutes a screen. And this was a 6 month project from January to June, all right? And you can kind of see what happened. And so you can see we went from 5.68 minutes in January for the average to 4.95 in June, right? So that's 0.73 minutes of savings, right? So that's not even a minute. Does that even matter? Where does that add up? So let's take a look at that, right? So I want you to look at this basic math, right? So remember how we said a press could be worth $300 an hour? So that equates to $5 a minute. Okay, so let's look at what's going on here. So let's just say, and maybe in your shop, there's 3 screens per job on average, and we do an average of 10 setups a day. You know, some people do less, some people do more, but let's just say it's 3 screens a job, 10 a day, right? So at 5.68 minutes, that comes out to, at $5 a minute, $852 we spent in opportunity costs to set those screens up. So if you reduce that by to 495, right, we have, it reduces it to $742.50, which is a daily savings per press of $109.50. And so if we take that, multiply that by 16 presses, by how many working days are in the year, that comes out to $45,000. Right. So $45,727.20 of opportunity cost savings. So is this a check that somebody's writing? No, but this means we're getting things out on time. This means we're getting more jobs set up every day, because we're not having to print, having to run overtime. We're not having to ship extra. We're not having to do extra things, because we're actually printing more shirts per day, which is how we make our money, right? So what we're really doing is we're establishing a baseline, right? So as you can see in January, that established the baseline. That is, here we are at the beginning. You know, we want to improve. That's what baseline's all about, but we need to know where we're going. So if we look at what's going on in January, right? So some presses were already under 5 minutes a screen on average. You know, that was press 1, 2, 6, 10, 13, and 14, right? And then some presses were way over. 4, 8, and 16 were over 7 minutes a screen, right? So the goal here was to really help them improve their setup times. And this just goes beyond just timing people. So how we did this was being organized, helping people, getting them the screens, getting them the ink, getting them the samples and the work order documents, getting everybody ready to work. This was a lot of work. This was a lot of training and a lot of focus to be able to drop these times, right? So this is real work, right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve things, right? So we're regularly looking at the data the whole time we're doing this for 6 months. And what is it saying to us, right? So, and then the other thing we're doing is we're sharing the benchmarking with our crews. You know, I printed graphs. I showed this to everybody. I put this up on the bulletin board so people could see what's going on. I asked them their opinion. What's holding you back on getting improvement? Do you need any tools? Do you need any equipment? Do you need help? You know, do you need a different person? You know, what are you waiting on that's going to allow you to get to the goal? That's what's really important here. And so if we look at this again, okay, so I want you to look at press 4 and press 8, okay? So press 4 is right here. They went from 7.2 in January to 5.8 in June, okay? So that's a 1.4 minute screen difference. For press 8, they went from 7.1 all the way to 5.9, okay, which is a 1.2 minute, okay? So at a, I don't have a graph for this, but for 30 screen average, so that's an extra 42 minutes a day to print for press 4 and an extra 36 minutes a day for press 8. So what could you do in that time? That's why I'm saying it's a whole extra job, right? So if we just kind of figure out what they're averaging per year, right? So that really helps us get more. And if we added all these two together, we would have about 18,000 more impressions per year just from that 1.2 and 1.4 minute savings. So this is the reason why we do this work, is because we can get more stuff done when we can focus on these numbers, right? So next up, let's talk about control, right? So W. Evers Deming, who's famous for his DMAIC way of looking at things, which is design, measure, analyze, improve, control. Control is the last one. It's the most important part, really, because we want these processes to work. We want the improvement to stick, right? So when we're looking at this stuff, what is your control plan to ensure that the things are happening properly? Remember, we want to be under 5 minutes of screen. So when we start backsliding a little bit, right? So if you look at press 1, in May, they went from 4.23 to 4.9, right? So what's going on with that? We can work with people and make sure we're helping them maintain what they're trying to do, right? So if there's a dip, we can follow up with that. Also, in control, we want to make sure once we start hitting our numbers that we're always hitting the numbers. This is how you celebrate success, not just when you're improving, but when you're constantly hitting the numbers and you're doing what you need to do. All right. So if we're looking at this stuff, and we're trying to figure out what's worse, what's not working, right? So what's impacting their performance? And I want you to take this to what's going on in your shop right now. So if you're not getting what you need, I want you to look at the type of work that they're doing. Are they doing something really ridiculous and that's holding you back? Also, what are the inputs from people, right? So you're look at getting screens or the ink not being ready, or they're waiting on an approval from a manager or the art person or whatever, and that's severely impacting this. What can you do to change that? Also, do you have newer employees? Maybe they need more training. So are you really looking at that? I know a lot of times we have people coming in and out, and the reason why sometimes your numbers here might dip a little bit, and that's because you've got new people. So we want to really kind of focus on making sure everybody knows what to do. Also, attitude. This is screen printing, as we know, is a hard job. If you do it day in, day out, sometimes you're just not feeling it, right? So how can we motivate our crews to keep going, to get fired up, to do what we need to do? So this kind of having data like this kind of helps you see where we are with things. And then, problems with our equipment or anytime we're waiting, this can all be reported so we can be working through those challenges. So by measuring and discussing the outcomes, you can influence the controlled behavior that we're trying to hit, right? So ask more questions. So as leaders and managers, we should always be asking more questions. When we use data, and especially when we graph the data, it's going to allow us to make better decisions and proactively solve challenges before they happen. So who needs help? Why are we having a problem? What is causing the challenge? Where is the biggest challenge that we face today? How are we solving the problem? What are the next steps? Data points us in the right direction to ask these questions. All right. So I wanted to talk about the new production tracker app for a minute and introduce Udit. So the production tracker app is going to allow you to visualize your production tracker. That's why it was built. Not at the end of the week or after you've updated your spreadsheet and pivot tables, but right now. And it's designed for that. And I've been working closely with Udit and his team at Grid. And I want to introduce him right now. And he has some other things to share with you. So Udit, are you still here?
Yes. Can you hear me, Marshall?
I can hear you. Take it away, dude.
Thank you so much, Marshall. And thank you for telling us about the importance of the production KPIs and the benefits of tracking them, and the entire control bit on how you can manage and maintain those KPIs to your target levels. So keeping this in mind, we've built the production tracker application that will let you track KPIs using simple mobile apps that run on any Android or iOS devices. So this is our URL, workongrid.com/production tracker. It's a simple application that runs on any device, and you could be tracking all the metrics that Marshall spoke about through simple clicks of buttons and submissions. Next slide, Marshall. Great. So this is our web page where you can simply go sign up and start using the application. So if you remember the manual log sheet from 6 slides ago, now with the production tracker app that we've built, there is actually no need to log and track data using log sheets, stopwatches, or any other such devices, right? You can go completely paperless, create your production KPIs, and can get those KPIs visualized in real time. So that's what the production tracker is about. Can we go to the next slide, Marshall? Great.
Do we want to run the movie?
Yes. So here is a short video that shows how the app works. We'll now play the video.
So we go to production tracker right there at the top, and we just hit the purple plus sign, and we need to find the order that we want to work on. We're going to be on press 1 today. And then what we want to do is find our order, which is Army 123. That's a full front sample. You can see it's 24 pieces only on the front. And by the way, if it had a back, that would be listed twice because those are 2 decoration events. So we're only going to do 24, and we need to start the setup. So we just hit setup start, and that's going to ask you how many screens it is. And we're going to say it's 2 screens, and we don't need to put any notes in there, but there's area for notes if you don't record something, and you just hit submit. Now, this is timing your crew right now, setting the job up. So they're putting the screens in the press, they're registering the screens, they're putting the ink in, they're putting the squeegees, the flood bars in, they're doing all of their work. When they finish, they would hit setup finish, and that stops timing that. Let's just say there's a problem with one of the screens. It was just discovered and we need to resolve it before we can move forward. We hit problem start, and you could pick the problem, and let's just say that the screen is clogged, and we can put not washed out if you want to put even more clarity to it, so it's not washed out well, and you hit submit. So now they're going back to the washout area, and they're blowing the screen out a little bit, and they're going to set it back up, and now it's back in and it's ready to go. So we hit problem finish, submit, and then that tells the app how long it took to resolve that problem and what the problem is. So if you were to start tracking all of your problems during setup or production or anything like that, this is how you can do it, and it automatically tracks everything. So we got our new screen in and we're ready to rock and roll. The manager just approved the job. So now we hit setup finish, submit. Now, the total time that took is now logged in the cloud for us to use as data later. And now we need to hit production start. Now, the reason why it doesn't just automatically flip to production start is because we know that sometimes right after that job's approved and we're ready to go, that's when somebody decides to go to the bathroom or something happens and we don't really start right away. Maybe it's 10 or 15 minutes after it's approved. So this allows you to find out that chunk of downtime so you can do something with it. But for right now, we're just going to hit production start, submit, and now we're printing those 24 pieces. We know exactly what's going on. And as soon as everything is printed, we're going to hit production finish. If there was a problem during production, we could hit problem start, and that would start that whole process again. But we printed those 24 shirts and they look fantastic. We don't have anything to worry about. So we're just going to hit production finish. And here's what happens. It asks you, how many did you print? We printed 24. The reason why this is here is, let's say you were printing 5,000 shirts and we started it at the end of the shift and we only printed 2 cases. So we've got 144 printed. The rest of them we're going to print tomorrow. You just put in exactly what we printed today. And then on tomorrow, we can log finishing the rest of the job. So we didn't have any misprints. We didn't have any defects. If you wanted to put some notes in there, like don't forget to warm up boards or something like that, you can add a note and then just hit submit. And then that's where all that information goes. And we're ready to rock and roll. All right, cool. So next slide, Udit.
Yeah, so yes. So as you can see, right?
Hold on. Right there. There you go.
Okay, no problem. So as you can see, with few clicks and buttons, you can actually track each activity and problem to create your digital production logs. Now, when you use the production tracker application, you don't have to do any manual calculations on spreadsheets, on paper to measure your metrics, right? So all the metrics that we were talking about, that Marsha was talking about a few minutes back, they get automatically created and get visualized. The app automatically does the math and drafts the data for you, as you can see on the screen. You can apply date filters on top. You can apply press filters. You can actually measure, visualize your KPIs across date, across presses, and you can filter the data the way you want to. We have total impressions graphed against a target that you can set. As you can see, impressions per hour, you can measure your productivity across your presses. We have average setup time here. So you can see the large spike for the shop on 13th September. This clearly shows that there was some problem during the setup that the shop faced, right? So all these KPIs gets graphed automatically while you are logging the data, while you're tracking the data using the app. Then we have total screens used, percentage uptime or production time. This is against your desired targets, and then your misprints. This is real data that you're seeing right now. We've also helped shops track their costs of misprints or expenditure on misprints using the application, right? So there's a lot of customization that can be done, and KPIs can be created for the shop floor.
And I want to just throw this in. This is a manual shop, not an auto shop.
Right. Next slide, Marshall.
Well, sorry. There you go.
Okay, great. So you can also, this is another dashboard, another sample dashboard. You can also compare the KPIs across the presses. So you can clearly see that the press 1 is better performing press with higher number of impressions, better impressions per hour, better productivity. And the uptime, if you look at the fifth graph, the uptime is comparable across both the presses here, right? However, the press 1 has higher number of misprints and the costs, of course, associated with the misprints, right? So you could be comparing your presses, your crew, and you can actually create, track what is happening on the shop floor using the production tracker dashboards. These dashboards are URL based. So the dashboards can be actually projected on a screen on the shop floor while the work is happening, and the crew could be motivated with all the metrics and the targets that you're seeing live in real time, right, as the tracking progresses on the application. So yeah, that's how the graphing works on the production tracker app. Next slide, Marshall. This is another example for embroidery. You can have similar dashboards for, just like we saw for screen printing, you can have for embroidery, artwork maintenance, heat press, digital, and other processes. So you can see here we have the production time, the stitch counts, and the time spent on solving problems, right? So again, similar KPIs for different processes can be created, can be tracked using the application, and can be visualized the way you're seeing it here. Yes, next, we can go to the next. So going ahead on how to get started with the production tracker application. So this is our pricing plan. This is where you start. So our base plan starts with $50 per month for up to 30 operators. And for each plan, you get a 1 month of free trial. The base plan has pre-built apps for screen printing, and we're launching applications for other processes like embroidery, DTG, artwork, and maintenance as well. So all standard processes will be available in our base plan. The second plan, which is the advanced plan, comes with integrations. So if you're using Printavo, we're already integrated with Printavo now, and a couple of shops are getting data directly from Printavo to production tracker application, and then they are tracking their production data against the jobs that they've created in Printavo. We're also integrating with other products that are commonly used, Shopworks, Monday.coms, ERPs, and point of sale systems that are common in the industry. We also have an API framework, so you could actually connect production tracker application to any other app or software that you're using via our APIs, and transact data between them. So that's what the advanced plans comes with. It's double of our base plan, primarily because there's a lot of backend databases that we're handling, integrations that we're handling, requests that we're making. And the expert plan comes with what we call a no-code framework. It is essentially a drag and drop interface that we've built so that you can build your own applications for other processes, right? So you can have scheduling application, dispatch management, inventories. You could have actually applications running for all your processes on shop floors using the no-code framework, and you can digitize other processes as well, right? Apart from your production data. We already have shops that have completely built customized inventory management solutions on the production tracker app, and that's what you get in the expert plan. With each plans, we're giving higher number of users, higher number of operators, so that you can digitize the entire shop floor with the applications. And of course, we're always available to help you get started with the app, and onboard you and help you set up the application so that you can start tracking the production data within minutes. Next slide, Marshall.
Whoop, hey. Okay. Whoop, sorry.
Yes. So getting started is very simple. Just go to workongrid.com/production-tracker, choose your plan and sign up. You can just search for the application on Play Store or App Store by searching for Production Tracker by Grid. We're also very soon launching on the Amazon store to make it available on the Amazon Fire tablet. And you can download the application, add your users, register your users, and start tracking your key metrics, right? That's how simple it is. If you need help, you can always book a meeting with us. We're always available on our website. We have a link where you can just go set up a meeting with us, and we can help you get onboarded and get started with tracking production and building those KPIs.
So we have a question from Nighthawk. He wants to know when the integration on Shopworks will be implemented. And do you want to take that question?
Yes. So we are exploring the integration with Shopworks right now, and I think within a couple of weeks we'll have much more clarity, and we will be communicating the timelines on our website for when it's going to go live. But we're actively pursuing Shopworks right now. After Printavo, that's what we're working on, and Monday.com.
And I would also mention that when you start building that, we're obviously going to need some beta shops that are willing to play with it with Shopworks to test for us. So if that's something you're interested in, Nighthawk, you should sign up and let us know. So we'll need your help. Trust me.
Yeah. Can we go to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is where we have our documentation. So ptdocs.workongrid.com. On our web page, at the bottom in the footer, there is a button called documentation. You can click on it and it'll take you to this page. it will automatically help you get it has all the details that can help you get started with the production tracker app within a few minutes, right? All the documentation, how to sign up, how to log in, how to set up your shop, how to add your users, the links to the applications that we have on the App Store and the mobiles on the Play Store. You can download those and you can get started within minutes. All our new features gets updated here, and you can be completely updated on what we're launching, when we're launching, by just following the docs that we've created, the documentation that we've created. Next.
David Anderson says he's in for being a beta shop for Shopworks. So thank you, David.
That's great, David. Thank you so much.
And Nighthawk 2. We got 2.
Perfect. So going ahead, when you go to our web page and click on the sign up button, you'll come to the pricing page, and you see you'll have talk to an expert button on top right. You can just use that, fill in the form, and we will get in touch with you to schedule a meeting and help you get started with the application, right? It's a very simple form. Just fill it in. We'll reach out to you, and we're here to help you get started immediately with the production tracker application and get your graphs and data up and running for you. Next slide. Marshall.
Yeah, and Dwayne wants to know if Printavo version is still in beta. And I think we're almost finished with that. I know we have several shops using it, and I think we're ready to release that. Aren't we really close on that?
Yes, we're actually very close to release that. And Devin, we can actually get you started with that as well. We can do the integration for you, immediately launch the integration for your shop, and you could have the Printavo data coming to the production tracker application. We'll reach out to you. So going forward, what's more, so our integration with Printavo is live in a few shops, and we'll be launching that as a complete self-served integration very soon. As we mentioned, you'll be able to create the jobs on Printavo, mark them as ready for production, and then start tracking them on the production tracker application directly, right? There will be no need to create jobs manually with this integration. Once the data from Printavo comes to the PT app, you could actually use that data to create more KPIs and dashboards. So that's also an additional capability, additional feature that you get, that once you've integrated with your ERP systems or with your POS systems, you could also create and graph their data on the production tracker app, right? Our embroidery tracker is live in a few shops right now, and that is going to be available soon for all our users. We're also in the process of launching other workflows for maintenance and artwork right now. We're creating them. They're in the test phase, and they will be launched in our base plan very, very soon. If you have a custom request, if you want to build more stuff, you want to track your inventories, you want to track your other KPIs, you can always reach out to me at udit@workongrid.com, and we will help you set up those custom apps and custom workflows using the no-code framework that we have on the production tracker application. Okay, we have.
So Eric wants to know if we have any slides to show how it looks when they're using Printavo. I don't think we have any slides, but do you want to take that question, Udit?
Yes. So what happens, Eric, is once we've linked your Printavo with Production Tracker, the job section automatically starts getting all the jobs directly from Printavo, right? So every invoice, every job that you mark as ready for production in Printavo, they start flowing into the Production Tracker application, and then from there they get picked up into the Tracker app. So that's how it works. And I'd love to actually help you set up, help you walk you through it. Why don't you just drop your email, and we'll reach out to you. One of us will reach out to you to show you how that works.
Great. So
great.
Why don't we take some questions, and if we don't have any questions, we'll just call it a webinar. But so if you've got a question, throw that in right quick, and we will do our best to answer them. But while we're waiting, so thank you so much, Udit. And I think this is a pretty informative webinar. What do you, why don't you talk a little bit about the other industries that you guys are tracking, and you guys have like 5,000 customers using your app or something like that, right?
So 5,000 users, yes. And we're actually helping manufacturers digitize their production shop floor. So we're working for quite a few apparel manufacturers. So like, similar to our industry, there, like, you can have applications deployed at the end of lines where production output is coming out. There's quality check that is happening. You could be completely digitizing those processes, and you could get your metrics on what kind of defects are most common in which lines, in which SKUs, right? And then you can have those dashboards projected on the screen on the factory floor, so that workers get motivated, operators get motivated, and see how they've been performing, right? And you can have line-wise comparison of the output. So that's what we're doing. We're also so typically any production shop floor could have custom applications deployed on the platform, and that's what Grid does. Production Tracker is a highly customized application for the decoration industry that we've built and launched.
Yeah, and you also do stuff in the mining industry. I mean, that's
That's
about
correct.
as completely different than what we do than anything. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's correct. So typically, so as I was talking about no code, right? So it's a concept where you can build applications without having to write a single line of code. Just drag and drop, launch the application, you could be using it. So the application is being used in the mining industry as well, from like, beneficiation to quality control and whatnot. So that's how it works.
Okay, well, great. Well, hey, I don't see any more questions, so I think that's going to do us for today. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I know your time is limited, and you chose to spend some time today to learn about something new and exciting that we're building. And so thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at marshall@marshallatkinson.com. And do you want to share your email real quick?
Yes, and you can reach out to me at udit@workongrid.com, and we can, just help you get started with the application and your production tracking.
All right, awesome. So thank you so much, and we'll check you guys next time. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Martin. Bye-bye.